Hello, welcome to Tap That MTG, the show where we tell you everything we know about magic that's probably wrong but fun to talk about. I'm Shawna,
I'm Lesley.
and today we are doing another one of our deep dive commander deck thingies that we've been doing for the past little while for the new Commander 2020 decks that are coming out
Yeah,
pretty soon. So this one, yeah, I'll let Lesley tell you about this one.
I'm very excited about this one. The commander, basically the breakdown of this deck um, is that you're going to cycle as much as you can for free and take advantage of cycling, either cycling or drawing that card. There's a bunch of cards in this deck that take advantage of that. So that's what this deck is going to do. And the commander I'm super excited about. It's Gavi Nest Warden. And basically, this commander is a human shaman. She costs 5, and she's 2, a blue, a red, and a white. So those are our colors for this commander deck. And
Mm-hmm.
you may pay 0 rather than cycling cost on the first card you cycle each turn. When you draw your second card each turn, you get to create a 2/2 red and white dinosaur cat creature token. Two of my favorite things.
Dinosaur cat.
So there's a lot of token creation in this deck. There's also lots of other cards that are creating tokens in this deck. So yeah, it's going to be super fun, and hopefully you'll cycle as much as you can for free when you play this deck. But why don't we kind of break it down? How are we going to tell them about this deck, Shauna?
So we have been doing these decks according to the formula that Lesley talks about in a video that she did a couple weeks ago about building your own commander deck. So there's a little formula that she talks about in that video. If you haven't seen it yet, go watch that. So breaking it down as of the ramp that's in there, removal, that kind of thing. So we're just going to go through each of the cards and where they fit in that breakdown.
Hmm.
Yeah. So mana curve wise, we've got a fairly aggro deck overall in general, I think. It has one card at 1 mana cost, 11 at 2, 19 at 3, and 8 at 4, and 7 at 5, and 11 at 6, and 4 at 7 and up. So there is one Planeswalker in this deck. We talk about the cards that are in this deck. And 24 creatures, 8 sorceries, 4 instances, 10 artifacts, and 14 enchantments, and it has 39 lands. So that'll kind of make sense here as we go through the cards, why there are so many lands. Lots of cycling and stuff.
Hmm.
And then if we look at the colors, it's similar to the other 3 color decks that we have been looking at. This one has 10 red, 16 blue, 13 white, and 10 multicolor, and then the 12 colorless. So it's fairly evenly between all the colors, fairly evenly spread.
A lot more colorless
Yeah.
than this one. So yeah.
Yeah, there's a few more artifacts, I think, is
Hmm.
maybe. Yeah.
Me has to do with mana because you're going to get rid of your land.
Yeah.
So let's talk about mana because that's our first section. So
Yes.
mana ramp generators, the preferred formula that we talk about has a recommendation of 15 cards that will ramp your deck or get you more mana. These are your mana rocks and things like that. This deck has 10, which is low, but there is a lot of extra cards or sorry, is a lot of extra land in this deck, and there is also a
Mm-hmm.
ton of card draw. So I play a Seconds Please deck or a card draw deck. There's lots of them out there, but one of my card draw decks, I think I only play with 17 lands in that deck because even though the recommended is around 22 to 23, because you're drawing cards all the time, you always have enough land and you will have land to play each turn. So ramp is less important in this deck, and I think 10 is right about on par. So the very first one that fits kind of in that category is Cryptic Tribulite. It is XX, which means you decide what X is going to be, and you have to pay that X twice. So if X is 2, it actually costs you 4. Cryptic
Hmm.
Tribulite enters the battlefield with X 1/1 counters on it, and then you can remove a 1/1 counter from it to add 2 colorless mana. You can only spend this mana to activate abilities. You can't use it to cast creatures, but you can activate an ability that of something that's already on the battlefield. So, for example, this has an activated ability, which is pay 1 and tap it to put a 1/1 counter on Cryptic Tribulite. So, you can use the mana to give it
To do that, I
remove a
guess.
counter to give it another counter, but that would give you an extra
That's
mana
maybe.
floating if you wanted to use that for something else. So you can do some math with this deck, which is kind of fun, but yeah, that's the first one.
Yeah, you're going to need math. But this card, Eternal Dragon, does have some place where you can use that. So it has its cost. It's a 5/5 flying dragon spirit that is 5 and 2 white, but you can pay 3 and 2 white and return it from your graveyard to your hand and activate this ability only during your upkeep. And then it has plane cycling of 2. So this is, you can discard this card and search your library for a planes card and reveal it and put it in your hand, then shuffle your library. So this is a great way to just get those planes that you need, build those up, just keep doing that over and over again as much as you need to until you can finally play this beautiful flying dragon.
So going back to our commander, and you can
Hmm.
cycle for the first time each turn. Does plane cycle
Right.
count for that?
I believe so. Leslie?
Yeah,
Does
yes,
it?
it does. We talked about this. You know.
I know. I know. I'm sorry. I'm being dumb.
Yes.
But yes,
Type
yes, it does.
cycle is just a subcategory of cycling, so it is still considered
Yeah.
cycling.
Well, it's a good question.
I know. We talked about it.
That's why you asked it.
So the next one is Arcane Signet. This is in all the decks. It's a commander
Mhm.
staple. Now it came out with Brawl. It costs 2, and you can basically just tap it to add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. So great card for this deck.
Yeah. And then these are some other signets that are in as well, and the other decks didn't have these, and I think it's because of this whole land cycling thing. So the Azorius signet and the Boros signet and the Izzet signet, signet, signet. Anyway, Azorius is the Azorius colors for white and blue. Boros the red and white, and Izzet the blue and the red. So you want those out so that you can do that
Mhm.
instead of
And
having that.
the Rogrin, Rogrin crystal,
These weird
that
words
one
today.
taps for all the colors or one of the
Sweet.
colors in your commander's identity, which is great, but it also has cycle. So if you find that you don't need this card out, you can use it to have the benefits of cycle. So anything that's in this
Mm-hmm.
deck is a good thing.
Yes. And then there's Commander Sphere, which we've been seeing. The Commander staple for 3, the artifact that lets you tap it and add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity and sacrifice and draw a card.
Soul Ring,
Do that anytime.
tap for 2.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the new Bonder's Ornament, that's a 3 cost artifact that lets you tap for add 1 mana of any color, and you can pay 4 later on and tap it, and each player who controls this ornament gets to draw a card. Sweet.
Mhm. Next category is removal. This has some awesome cards
Mm.
for removal. I love the first one here, but our preferred formula says we should have about 15, and there's 16 that we identified as good removal cards in this deck. So it's right on par with a typical commander deck. The first one being Agitator Ant. We have seen this one already in some of the other commander decks, but it works really well in this one. Um, it costs 2 and a red for a 2/2, but at the beginning of your end step, each player may pay or maybe put 2 1/1 counters on a creature they control, which is super nice of you to offer.
Mm.
However, If they choose to do that, then each of the creatures that put a counter on it that way is goaded. So goaded is basically they have to attack each combat if able, and they have to attack not you. So sure, have a
Yeah.
counter, but attack someone else. Great commander card.
Exactly. The surly Badgesaur, which is just so awesome. I had to show this to my husband right away because he likes the badger card that's in Magic. It's
Yeah.
hilarious. But it's a badger dinosaur that is a 3/3 for a 3 and a red. And whenever you discard a creature card, put a 1/1 counter on our little dude here, which you are going to be doing because you're going to be cycling things and discarding things. So whenever you discard a card, create a treasure token. So there's a little bit of mana ramp there too. A treasure token lets you add mana. Whenever you discard a non-creature, non-land card, Surly Badger fights up to one target creature you don't control. So there's whatever kind of card you are discarding, you are going to make this badger really mean.
Badger, 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 mushroom, mushroom. Sorry. Nimble Obstructionist for 2 and a blue is a 3/1. It has flash, which means you're not playing it on your turn. You're playing it
Sweet.
on someone else's turn or during combat. It's just like an instant. It's flying. It has cycle, so again, you can use it to get some benefits on other creatures that have cycle. However, it has its own little benefit when you cycle it. You get to counter target activated or triggered ability you don't control. So because it has flash, you can cycle it with like at flash speed and just someone's trying to activate an ability or a triggered ability is going off, you can just be like, no, I don't like that.
Can you cycle at flash speed anyways, at instant speed?
Oh, yes, you can. Yeah.
Question. Which is
Yeah.
nice. Because then you do that on their
Mm-hmm.
turn. Anyways. Portal Mage for 2 and a blue, a 2/2 flash human wizard. When he enters a battlefield during the declare attacker step, you may reselect which player or planeswalker target attacking creature is attacking. So it can't attack its controller or its controller's planeswalker. So it can't attack itself.
Yeah.
Like its owner. But you can certainly when you're when you're in the middle of combat, you can say, "Oh yeah, no, I'm going to have you attack my big guy instead." Sorry, and kill it. I like it.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Dismantling Wave is a
This is
sorcery.
insane.
It's got
It's
2
insane.
and a sorry.
It's insane.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. 2 and white. For each opponent, destroy up to one target artifact or enchantment that player controls. However, if you want to cycle it for 6, 7, 8, but remember, if you have your commander out, the first card you cycle is free. So you're going to play this as your first cycle card. And when you cycle it, it destroys all artifacts and enchantment. Now remember, it says all, that means yours. So play it wisely, but play it well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Achroma's Vengeance for 4 and 2 white. It's a sorcery as well that is destroy all artifacts, creatures, and enchantments. Or you can cycle it for free if you don't need to do that. You just need some card draw. Crazy.
Very cool. Descending upon the Sinful is a sorcery. Exile all creatures. Nice little board wipe there if you need it. It's 4 and 2 white. Uh, it has Delirium though. So Delirium, if there are 4 or more card types among cards in your graveyard. So the type is in the line where you would see sorcery. So it might say creature, it might say sorcery, it might say instant, it might say enchantment. So those are the types that you're looking for. You can search your graveyard, hand, or library of that spell's controller for any number of cards with the same name as that spell. Exile those cards, then the player shuffles their library. That's Delirium from the rules. In this card, if you have Delirium, you get to create a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying. And if there are 4 or more card types among them in your graveyard. So the benefit of delirium with this is you get a little angel once you exile all
Mm-hmm.
creatures. So it's okay because you have a creature that you get back.
Your angel's going to take over. Slice and Dice. This is a fun looking card. So it is 4 and 2 red, a sorcery that deals 4 damage to each creature. Or you can cycle it for 2 and a red. And when you cycle Slice and Dice, you may have it deal 1 damage to each creature. So just depends on what you need
Mm-hmm.
and how much mana you have.
Yeah, exactly. Slice and dice. Fierce Guardianship. If you control a commander, you may cast this spell without paying its mana cost. So wait and play this card when you control your commander. Counter target creatures, non-creature spell. Sometimes that's not possible. You don't have your commander out and you still want to counter that.
Yeah.
So it is actually a fairly cheap card. And so as it is, this is a rock star.
Yeah. Then we have Neutralize for 1 and 2 blue, and its counter target spell, or you can cycle it for 2. This is Sinister Sabotage.
Yeah,
Right there,
yeah, with a
but with
cycle.
cycling.
Yeah. Zenith
Mm-hmm.
Flare, 2 and a red and a white, is an instant. It deals X damage to any target, and you gain X life, where X is the number of cards with cycling ability in your graveyard, which is hopefully lots. And X damage to any
Yeah.
target yeah, that's a great little removal spell.
And then we have the Impetus cards again. So we have the Martial Impetus
See,
for 2
Pier.
and a white.
It's Pier, Toothy's
What's
friend.
okay? Okay, now I see it. I didn't see that before. Okay, so an enchant creature. This is where you put these impetuses go on the other person, another player's cards and creatures, and they get this one gets +1 and is goaded. And whenever an enchanted creature attacks, each other creature that's attacking one of your opponents gets +1/+1 until end of turn. So you're having your opponents fight each other, and you're sitting there smiling.
Can't go wrong with that. Psychic
Nope.
Impetus. I love this one, especially for this deck. It has goaded as well, but you basically are going to enchant your partner's or your enemy's creature, and it gets +2/+2 and is goaded. But when it attacks, you get to scry 2. Any information is good information.
Yeah, exactly. And the shiny impetus, which is the kind of scary looking one, it is enchanted creature gets +2/+2 and is goaded. And whenever enchanted creature attacks, you create a treasure token. So it's a little bit of mana ramp for you there.
Mm-hmm. And Cast Out is an enchantment.
Mm-hmm.
I love this card as well. I just love all the cards. I just love magic. Okay, you guys? Every card is a good
Yes.
card in my
Yes,
mind.
we do.
3 and a white. It's a flash enchantment, and you can, when Cast Out enters the battlefield, exile target non-land permanent an opponent controls until Cast Out leaves the battlefield. So it's basically just like a little nothing new. The benefit of it though is that it has cycle on it. So it's one of those enchantments that has cycle, which is why it's in this deck.
Yeah. All right. Now we're getting into the creature section. The where we sorry, not the creature section. I just saw the creature there. He's so good. Anyway, it's the card draw section, and or going to get other cards or particular cards, or being able to see cards. So the first one we have, the formula says about 13, but there are 11 in this section that we've got there. But you have to think about that all those cycling cards are also drawing you cards too, so they're replacing themselves. Ethereal Forager is an elemental whale, which is just flippin' amazing. It's for 4 and 2 blue, a 3/3, and it has Delve. So what Delve is each card you exile from your graveyard while casting this spell pays for 1 colorless mana. So you can get him a lot cheaper. He's a flyer, and whenever he attacks, you may return an instant or sorcery card from that you exiled with it to its owner's hand. So the cards that you exiled, you get to return them to your hand anyways. So, yeah, I don't know what the downside of this card is because there isn't one.
It's pretty
It's
crazy.
cheaper and yeah, so cool.
Yeah. You missed Lightning Rift?
What? Did I? Oh, I did. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I
I'll
missed
go back
Lightning
and do that
Rift.
one.
Okay,
So
sorry.
back to Lightning Rift because it's a good card and you guys
Missed the
should
whole
know about it.
page.
It's a
Yeah.
2 mana cost enchantment, and whenever a player cycles a card, you may pay one. If you do, Lightning Rift deals 2 damage to any target. So this is a really great enchantment that just
Yeah.
continues doing stuff for you, and the cost of only paying one when you cycle. This is a perfect example of a card that gets you the benefit from cycling or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. Okay, I'll let you do the next
no, go
card
ahead.
as well. Okay. The spell Pyre Phoenix. It is another one of these big phoenixes for 3 and 2 red, a 4/2 flyer, and when it enters the battlefield, you may return a target instant or sorcery with a cycling ability from your graveyard to your hand. And at the beginning of each end step, if you cycled 2 or more cards this turn, return the spell Pyre Phoenix from your graveyard to your hand. So just that whole recirculating thing.
Mm-hmm.
So good.
Yeah, it's a great one. Isperia Supreme Judge, very Azorius, this card, for 2 and 2 white and 2 blue. It's flying, and when a creature attacks you or a planeswalker you control, you may draw a card. So just gets you some card draw. There's a few cards in this deck that benefit from you drawing cards. So not only cycling,
Yep.
drawing you cards, this one does as well. Plus, it's a nice big bomb. So yeah.
Yeah, it's going to keep people off of you.
Mm-hmm.
Mercurial Chemister for 3 a blue and a red. It is a 2/3 human wizard that you can pay a blue and tap him to draw 2 cards. Or you can pay a red and you can tap him and discard a card. Mercurial Chemister deals damage to a target creature equal to the discarded card's converted mana cost. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to just sit there and draw 2
Yeah,
cards.
and it's a discarded card, and there's some cards that benefit from just discarding a card too. So,
Yeah.
yeah, good synergy there. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, Niv Mizzet the Firemind, because who doesn't want that in
Mm-hmm.
their deck? It's a 4/4.
Yep.
He costs 6, so that kind of sucks. But he is flying, and whenever you draw a card, Niv Mizzet the Firemind deals 1 damage to any target, and then you can tap him to draw a card. So that thing that you need to get off the battlefield or just pinging someone for that damage, getting rid of that planeswalker, you can just do that multiple times because it's every time you draw a card. And you're going to be cycling.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, good
Yeah.
synergy.
Boon of the Wishgiver for 4 and 2 blue. It's a sorcery that lets you draw 4 cards. Or you can cycle it for 1.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Windfall is where I want to be in a few years, shoveling gold. Uh, Each player discards their hand, then draws cards equal to the greatest number of cards a player discarded this way. So if you do find yourself short of cards and somebody else is hoarding cards in their hand, this is a great way to get up to their level. You probably don't want to make people do that when you have the most because you're just going to be giving them more cards. So
Yeah.
kind of think about that.
Yeah. Hieroglyphic Illumination. This was a very popular card when it was out in Amonkhet days. It's for 3 and a blue, an instant that lets you draw 2 cards, or you can cycle it for 1.
Mm-hmm. And New Perspectives is an enchantment that when it enters the battlefield, you get to draw 3 cards. And then as long as you have 7 or more cards in your hand, you may pay 0 rather than paying the cycling cost. So never mind your commander allowing you to pay 0 for the first one. Now you have this on the battlefield. Keep drawing cards, keep them in your hand. Don't play them all. Keep them for when you need them. Now everything cycles for free.
Crazy. Tectonic Reformation is another enchantment that's for 1 and a red, and it has each land card in your hand has cycling 1 red. And you can cycle this card for 2. So it just makes everything have cycling
Mm-hmm.
of lands, anyways. Yeah.
Reconnaissance Mission for 2 and 2 blue is another enchantment. I get all the enchantments today. Whenever a creature you
Yeah.
control deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card, and it has cycling too. So whether you like the enchantment or whether you need to cycle it, lots of options there.
Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. That's insane.
Yeah. And whenever you draw a
I
card,
missed it.
it does 1 damage too.
Wow. All right. They're going to be dead fast.
Yeah.
So then we're on to the high impact creature card or cards for this deck. The formula is about 12, and this deck has about 8. These are game winning kinds of cards. So the first one here that I'm going to look at is the bird dinosaur Hakeem, the Soaring Wind. It's a 3/4 flyer, and it costs 2, a blue, a red, and a white. But whenever you create one or more tokens for the first time each turn, you get to create a 1/1 white bird creature token with flying. And then later on in the game, you're going to make all those creature tokens get double strike until end of turn.
Lots of
Very
tokens
nice.
in this deck too, so
Lots of tokens.
token synergy with this card here for sure. And then we have Braylon, the Shark Rider. She has a partner. Her partner is Shabraz, the Sky Shark, which I'll get to in a second. But she has the ability that whenever you discard a card, so it's not cycling necessarily, just any discarding, you get to put a 1/1 counter on her. And it deals 1 damage to each opponent. You can also pay 1, target shark gains trample until the end of turn. I don't know what shark we might be talking about, but maybe it's this
I don't
one.
know.
Shabraz, the sky shark, is a legendary creature, shark bird for a 3/3 flyer. Of course, it partners with Braylon. And this one, whenever you draw a card, you put a 1/1 counter on it and you gain a life. So one of them, you gain a counter and deal a damage when you discard. The other one, you gain a counter and gain a life when you draw. Very good partners for this deck. It's like they were made for it.
Yeah, don't forget the bottom.
You can also give target human gains flying until the end of turn. Of course, Braylon is a human. So those two work really well together and really well in this deck.
Swoop in there
Mhm.
and get your opponent
Yeah.
with the
Did I
shark.
mention I love this deck?
Oh, it's so fun. The set is so fun.
Yeah.
Let's just face it. Oh. Herald of the Forgotten, which is a cat beast.
Cat beast.
For 6 and 2 white, it's a 6/6 flyer. And when it enters the battlefield, if you cast it, return any number of target permanent cards with cycling abilities from your graveyard to the battlefield. That's it.
Game winning hand there. That is a crazy
Yes.
creature.
When that happens, your opponent may as well just concede.
Yeah. Especially if you're playing 1v1. Anyways. I don't know. Board wipe might deal with some of that stuff, but there's a lot of
I
enchantments
guess.
and things like that. And does it say target permanent? Or any number of permanents?
Any number of target permanent cards with cycling abilities from your graveyard to the battlefield.
Land is a permanent.
Yeah.
So you get land too.
You get any number.
Just everything.
You can return 5 of them. It doesn't matter. It's a cat beast.
Yep. All right. Sun Titan for 4 and 2 white is a giant with vigilance. It's a 6/6, and when it enters the battlefield or attacks, you may return target permanent card with a converted mana cost of 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So again, a converted mana cost isn't the cycling cost; it is the converted mana cost, which is at the top of the card. So, but yeah, stuff from the graveyard for free is great, especially since you've cycled a bunch of stuff. So,
Yeah, exactly.
oh, my eyes are watering.
Curator of Mysteries. It's a 4/4 flying sphinx for 2 and 2 blue that has whenever you cycle or discard another card, you get to scry. And you can also cycle this for 1 blue if you want, but you're going to want him out there.
Mm-hmm. And of course, the Locust God is in this deck.
Of course.
Of course, because why not? He is 4 and a white, or a blue and a red. He's got flying. Whenever you draw a card, you create a 1/1 blue and red insect creature token with flying. and haste. And you can pay
Yep.
4 to draw a card, then discard a card. And when Locust God dies, that's okay. Return it to its owner's hand at the beginning of your next end step. So
Yeah.
that is a crazy thing. Back from Hour of
Yeah.
Devastation.
It was crazy then. It's crazy now as well. Uh, Drake Haven for 2 and a blue from Amonkhet as well is an enchantment that whenever you cycle or discard a card, you may pay 1, and if you do, you get to make a 2/2 Drake
Yep.
token with flying. More tokens,
Tokens,
and
tokens,
you're going to buff them
tokens.
all up later on. Just saying.
Yeah.
Well, not buff them up, you're going to give them double strike. That's what it is.
So other cards on theme slash, I always get to introduce this section, slash other win conditions, slash specialty cards, slash cool cards.
Crazy stuff.
All the rest of the stuff that doesn't like that's on theme. Anyways, our preferred formula has a recommendation of 10 and this deck has 15 in it. So it's basically just the 15 cards that we couldn't figure out where else they went. It is, of course, a different type of deck because it is focused around cycling. So it's not going to fit a typical commander formula, of course. So this makes sense. Psychosis Crawler. Awesome art on this card. It's a horror. It has no power and toughness. It costs 5. So let's find out what its power and toughness is. Its power and toughness are each equal to the number of cards in your hand. So again, we talked about having cards in your hand, and whenever you draw a card, each opponent loses 1 life. So that's a thing.
I'm going to be in the psychosis if I have to play against Lesley when she plays this deck.
I can't wait.
Oh,
I'm so
man.
excited.
Oh, dear.
Yeah.
The Rooting Moloch for 4 and a red. It's a 4/4 lizard. Godzilla looking creature. And when it enters the battlefield, exile target card with the cycling ability from your graveyard. Until the end of your next turn, you may play that card. And cycling is 2. So, yeah.
So again, that's a
Oh my
thing.
gosh. Yep, exactly.
Valiant Rescuer
I
for
love this
it's a
one.
like little 3/1. We love our 3/1s. They're super aggressive for
Mm-hmm.
2. And when you cycle, it's a white card. Whenever you cycle another card for the first time each turn, you get to create a 1/1 human soldier creature token, and it has cycling itself. So benefits from cycling your first card each turn, and that's going to be free. So yeah, and then
Yeah,
it's in your graveyard. That's okay. With your other cards, you're going to bring them back. Doesn't matter.
you are. Because it's that cheap little mana cost. You can bring them back.
Yep, yep, yep.
Then there is the Savai Thundermane for a red and a white, the Boros colors. It's a 3/2, so very good. And whenever you cycle a card, you may pay 2. When you do, Savai Thundermane deals 2 damage to target creature and you gain 2 life. So finish off that other creature
And
and
it's
you
an
gain a life.
elemental cat.
It's an
Like,
elemental cat. It's beautiful.
you wonder why I want this deck.
There's a lot of
Your
really awesome
commander
cats in this deck.
creates cat dinosaur
Cats!
tokens. Anyway, Vizier of Tumbling Sands, a creature human cleric for 3. It's a 1/3. You can tap it to untap another target permanent, and you can also cycle it if you want. If you cycle it, you get to untap a target permanent. So if you just need that one that time, you can just cycle to untap something, or you can get it on the battlefield and use its tap ability to untap another target permanent whenever you want. I kind of think you should get it on the battlefield personally, but depends what the
Yeah.
game looks like.
Yeah, exactly. Decree of Justice for 2x. So XX, 2 colorless, and then 2 white. So it's a little complicated. It seems complicated, anyways. It's a sorcery where you get to create X 4/4 white angel creature tokens. Or you can cycle for 2 in white. And when you cycle Decree of Justice, you may pay X. If you do, create X 1/1 white soldier creature tokens. So decide whether you want angels or whether you want some soldiers out there and how much mana you have.
Yeah.
So.
So Migratory Route is a sorcery that allows you to create 4/1/1 bird creature tokens with flying. It also has basic land cycling, so you can decide if you want 4 birds or if you want basic land cycling, depending on what you have on the battlefield and what you need the benefit from, tokens or cycles.
I think this has to be one of my favorite pieces of art on this
It's
card.
beautiful.
That they managed in a tiny little card to get this gorgeous reflective bird picture on here.
Yeah,
It's beautiful.
it's beautiful.
Abandoned Sarcophagus for 3. It's an artifact that you may cast spells that have a cycling ability from your graveyard. Oh, darn. I cycled that out, but I get to cast them
What?
anyways. Jeez. If a card that has a cycling ability would be put into your graveyard from anywhere and it wasn't cycled, exile it instead. So, that's a little risky there. Must be a downside, I guess.
But it's a benefit to cycle them instead, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Fluctuator for 2. It's an artifact.
This is
Cycling abilities you activate cost up to 2 less to activate. So if you don't have something else on the battlefield that can give you a 0 cycle cost, this will help. I love this
I
next
have a
card.
question.
Yeah.
Um, so if some of these cycling costs are 2 and a white,
Yeah.
so you'd still have to pay the white,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah. Whenever there's a
Yeah.
cost, good question. Whenever there's a cost to anything, whether it be converted mana cost or whether it be um, an activated ability, whatever the color is, always has to be paid. So if it's 3 white and 2, the only thing you can reduce is 2, which is why you'll see on the card there it has 2 with a circle around it. That means 2 colorless, less to activate, or not colorless, but 2 of the any color in the cost.
Right.
Yeah.
Just thought I'd clarify
Yeah,
that. It
good
just popped
question.
into
A
my
lot of
head.
a lot of new players aren't sure about that. So
Yeah. Then we have Hoofprints of the Stag, which is a tribal enchantment elemental for 1 and a white. And whenever you draw a card, you may put a hoofprint counter on Hoofprints of the Stag. And you can pay 2 and a white and remove 4 hoofprint counters from Hoofprints of the Stag and create a 4/4 white elemental creature token with flying and activate this ability only during your turn.
mhm.
So that's just a nice little way to get some creatures out
Yeah,
there
I like
for no
that one
reason.
so much. It's great.
Yeah.
Crystalline Resonance for 2 and a blue is another enchantment. I like my enchantments. There's a lot of enchantments in this deck. Whenever you cycle a card, you may have Crystalline Resonance become a copy of another target permanent until your next turn, except it has this ability. So it doesn't have to be your permanent. It's just any target permanent. It can be their commander. It can be their big beefy thing. Whatever you want it to be, you can copy it. So yeah.
Handy dandy.
Mhm.
Then we have Astral Drift, which is another enchantment for 2 and a white. It is whenever you cycle Astral Drift or cycle another card while Astral Drift is on the battlefield, you may exile a target creature. If you do, return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. So you can pay cycling is 2 and a white for that one
Yep.
as well.
Ominous Sea for 2, regular or colorless or whatever. For blue, 1 and a blue. Jeepers, just read the card, Lesley. Whenever you draw a card, put a foreshadow counter on Ominous Sea. I love that it's a foreshadow counter. I'm just saying.
Foreshadowing.
Uh, remove 8 foreshadow counters from Ominous Sea and create an 8/8 blue Kraken creature token, or you can cycle it for 2. But I'm sorry, that is so cool.
It is going to be really
Get
cool.
that
I
on
can't
the
wait to see the
I want that on
tokens.
the battlefield. There's no way I'm
Yeah.
cycling that card.
No, not with as many cards as you're going to be drawing.
Yeah.
You have a Kraken in no time.
Yep.
Spirit Cairn for 2 and a white. It's an enchantment, and whenever a player discards a card, you may pay a white. If you do, create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying.
Yep.
More tokens.
And if you weren't yet impressed by this deck and excited, like Me, it has Chandra Flamecaller in it. Legendary Planeswalker for 4 and 2 red. She's a 4 loyalty Planeswalker. She comes in and you can +1 her to create a 3/1 elemental creature token with haste. You can exile them at you exile them at the end of your turn. So basically you just create 2/3/1s and they swing in. Or you can 0 her to discard all the cards in your hand, then draw that many +1. So you get an extra card and you put some stuff in your graveyard. You're discarding, so you're taking advantage of any of your enchantments or creatures that benefit from that. Or you can -X her and she deals X damage to each creature. So you need a board wipe, you got her on there. I love her
Mm-hmm.
anyway, and she's perfect in this deck.
Yes, very much so. Then we're moving on to our land section, and as we mentioned earlier, there are 39 lands in this deck compared to the usual 32-ish. Um, but you'll see there are a ton of cycling lands in here. So we have Hostile Desert, which is a desert land, particular type, and you can add colorless mana, or you can pay 2 and exile a land card from your graveyard, and Hostile Desert becomes a 3/4 elemental creature until end of turn. It's still a land.
Yep.
So, yeah.
And Temple of the False
Uh,
Gods is a land
yeah,
that taps for 2. You can activate this ability only if you control 5 or more land.
yeah. Ash Barrens, you can add a colorless mana with it, or you can do basic land cycling, so go and find a basic that you need instead.
Desert of the True, it taps for white, or you can cycle it, cycle land.
Yeah, and then Drifting Meadow, same thing. It enters tapped.
Yeah, Secluding Step, same thing.
So
In
same
fact,
thing.
the same is true for Desert of the Fervent, Smoldering Crater. Did we put them all together? Forgotten Cave,
Yep.
Desert of the
Yep.
Mindful, Remote Island, Lonely Sandbar. They all just tap for the one color, or you can cycle them. They have different cycling costs, but um,
Yep.
most of them come in tapped. But really good cards for just adding to that cycling if you don't need them to play. So
Exactly, and it does all that cycling stuff that you need, even though it's land, right?
yeah.
And then we have dual color lands that some of them have cycling too. We have irrigated farmland, so it's the blue and the white, and it has cycling on it. We also have Prairie Stream, Sky Cloud Expanse, Azorius Chancery. Those are all the blue and the white Azorius color lands that you may want to have.
Yeah. Do you want me to?
And
Oh,
then,
go ahead.
sorry, and then we've also got the blue and the red lands, which are Shivan Reef and Is It Boiler Works. And then we have the Boros colors, which is the Boros Garrison for red and the white.
Hmm. And of course, every one of these commander decks has the 3 color mana that is attached to their commander in it. So this one happens to be Mystic Monastery. And then a key land for this deck that
Mm,
I would have recommended if it wasn't in here is
yeah.
Reliquary Tower. You have no maximum hand size. So remember, we were drawing a bunch of cards. We have some benefits for having lots of cards in your hand, for having more cards than everybody else in your hand. So this is a really important land to kind of try and get out. If there's other land out there that we can do that with, that'd be great too.
Yeah. Command Tower is the one that all the decks have. It's add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. Exotic Orchard is the same. And, well, actually, no. Exotic Orchard is where you add 1 mana that an opponent controls. And Myriad Landscape is the one where you can sacrifice it and search for up to 2 basic lands.
We've done so many of these, you guys. They're all just,
Yeah,
all the
sorry.
cards are
You
just
shouldn't be assuming
coming
that you know.
together.
Yeah.
We
So we got
also have,
4
oh,
plains
yeah.
and 5 islands and 6 mountains as well, or 2. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So solid land base in there, and I still think 39 is probably too much for a commander deck, especially one that you're drawing cards on a regular basis. If you are going to take land out of this deck, definitely start with your basic lands. Keep your cycling lands in there. Do not take them out, but there definitely could be some of the other ones that you might want to maybe say that you're taking out if you don't really need them. Play with it first. Always recommend playing with it first
Mm-hmm.
before tweaking it, because then you'll know what it is that you want to tweak. Speaking of
Yeah.
tweaks, we are moving on to our tweak section. We have a few
Right.
suggestions for you. Thank you so much for sticking with us so far. You will not be disappointed. I am sure of it. What is our first tweak card, Shawna?
We had some fun here. Hollow One. He is a really cool 4/4 for 5 artifact creature that costs 2 less to cast for each card you've cycled or discarded this turn.
Mm-hmm.
And his cycling cost is 2. So, yeah, it's a great way to get a big 4/4 out there. It's cheap. I really like that one.
Yeah. Wingcaller Aven is another good cycle card that you could add into this deck. It's 4/3 for 4 and 2 blue. It's flying, it has cycle, and when you cycle it, target creature gains flying until the end of turn, so something else is getting a benefit if you cycle. I love the cards that have something that happens when you cycle them, not just drawing a card and discarding the card. Yes, I want to discard the card and draw a card, or this card and draw the card, but I want another benefit. And this is a good one, good example of that. So,
Then we have a little versatile instant that we thought would be a good addition. Shredded Sails for 1 and a red, and you can choose one. So destroy target artifact or deal 4 damage to target creature with flying, and you can cycle it for 2.
mhm.
So it's just a great little instant that you could bring back potentially later on as well. So yeah.
And Flourishing Fox, I don't know why this one wasn't in the deck to begin with, because it's perfect and it's made for this set, but I
Uh-huh.
guess they can't put everything in this deck. They want you to make it your own. But whenever you cycle another card, you get to put a 1/1 counter on Flourishing Fox, and cycle is only 1. Of course, it's probably going to be cheaper or free. So, yeah, just keeps getting bigger.
I, I just love it. It's so cute. And then we've got Godzilla Doom Inevitable. It's a legendary creature, a dinosaur turtle that has trample and haste. It's an 8/8 for 7. And a cycling of 1 and a red. And when you cycle Videro, or sorry,
This dude.
Yadero Wandering Monster, this big guy here, shuffle it into your library from your graveyard. If you've cycled a card named Yadero Wandering Monster 4 more times this game, put it onto the battlefield from your graveyard instead.
Yeah. So you'll notice this card
Oh, yeah. Yep.
has Godzilla Doom Inevitable on the top. That's because
Mm-hmm.
it's the alternate art. Its actual name is
Sorry.
Udario. And so, yeah, that's why it looks different. It's confusing because the first time I saw these, I was like, what? But what
Yeah.
do you mean? But if you look underneath Godzilla Doom Inevitable, you see the little tiny name underneath it.
I didn't
So,
have my glasses on.
yeah, no, I just wanted to point that out because a lot of people say
Yeah.
there's a lot of different alternate arts. It's not a different card. It's just for some reason called
Yep.
something different when it's in alternate form.
Yeah. And its actual card name is the Yadaro, not Godzilla.
Yeah. So Gilded Light for 1 and a white is an instant, and you gain Shroud until the end of turn, which means you can't be targeted by spells or abilities, or it has cycle. So it's a nice little cycle card, but it saves you from being, hey, target player has to sacrifice all creatures or something like that. So um,
Something crazy.
again, it has to be something like target that protects you from, but we're just gonna make ourselves invisible,
Yeah,
you know.
because it's fun. And then we're going to go to the library again with Frantic Search. Leslie and I love this card because we're
I think
librarians.
it needs to be in every
And
blue deck.
I think so too. For 2 and a blue, it is draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards, and untap up to 3 lands. So you're going to be doing lots of card drawing. You might want to get rid of some of that stuff, get some new stuff.
Yeah.
that's a good card to do it with.
Yeah. And just taking advantage of some of the stuff that benefits from card draw. Draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards is on Faithless Looting, which costs only 1 to cast, and it has a flashback. So for those that don't know what flashback is, you just get to cast it from your graveyard for its flashback cost. This one happens to cost you 3, 2 and a red to cast it the second time. So just taking advantage of some of that card draw.
And then there are so many really awesome enchantments in this deck that you are like, I really want to get this enchantment. You can use cards like Idyllic Tutor, which is a sorcery that lets you go and search for an enchantment, reveal it, and put it in your hand, then shuffle your library.
Yeah, that's a solid suggestion for this deck. So then the other thing that we kind of were talking about that we felt could add some more spice to this deck are cards that take advantage of when you draw cards, because you're drawing so many cards when you're playing this deck. So Chasm Skulker is one of them. It's a squid horror for 2 and a blue. It's only a 1/1, but whenever you draw a card, you get to put a 1/1 counter on it. And it has the benefits when it dies that you create X blue 1/1 blue squid creature tokens with Island Walk, where X is the number of 1/1 counters that Chasm Skulker has. And a reminder what Island Walk is, it just means that you can walk through the island. So if somebody has an island, they can't block those creatures.
Nope.
And in this commander set, and in, let's face it, in a lot of commander sets, blue is kind of a thing. So
It is. It is indeed.
yeah.
Dream Trawler, a card that I love to hate, but I love it anyways. It's a 3/5 flying sphinx with that's two colorless, 2 white, 2 blue, and it has lifelink and flying as well. Whenever you draw a card, it gets +1/+0 until end of turn, and whenever it attacks, you just to draw a card, so it gets buffed up immediately. And you can give it hexproof by discarding a card and tapping it. So it's really hard to get rid of once it's out. People have a hard time with it.
Yeah.
Especially me.
Fairy Vandals. It wouldn't be a Lesley deck without a fairy in it. So Fairy
Exactly.
Vandals is one of my faves right now. For 1 and a blue, it's a 1/2, but whenever you draw your second card each turn, you get to put a 1/1 counter on Fairy Vandals. So similar to your commander, when you're drawing your second card, you get that token. This one gives you a counter. Of course, you go untap, upkeep, draw. Whatever you play next that allows you to draw a card is your second card per turn. So you will be drawing a second card. And it's per turn. So that includes other people's turns. And you can cycle at instant speed. So, you know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You're
all
going to be
kinds
doing
of
lots of
free
stuff.
stuff happening.
Exactly. And then this Improbable Alliance fits very well with that whole idea. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, create a 1/1 fairy, and you can pay 4 and a blue and a red later on and draw a card and then discard a card. So Lesley uses this against me all the time. It's a great little enchantment.
I love this deck. Iron Crag Pyromancer is also another one that is in
Mm-hmm.
my current standard deck. Whenever you draw a second card each turn, it does 3 damage to any target. Of course, it can be to their face or it can be to whatever you need to kill.
Mm-hmm. Very strong. Very strong.
Yeah.
And then finishing up here, the suggestion is that maybe try Jace the Arcane Strategist for 4 and 2 blue, and he is a 4 loyalty planeswalker that has a static ability was whenever you draw your second card each turn, put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. Whatever you want. You can do +1 and draw a card. There you go. Easy peasy. Or you can do his -7, and creatures you control can't be blocked this turn. Game over.
Yeah.
Done.
You created a bunch of tokens and a bunch of everything getting big, and yeah, awesome.
And you're done.
Not quite done with our suggestions, though. Sorry, there are a few
No, we're
more.
not. Oh, yeah, there's a couple more. I
Nadir
forgot about these guys.
Kraken is
Yep.
another one that takes advantage of counters and tokens. And
Yeah.
whenever you draw a card, basically you get to pay 1. So there is an additional cost to that. But if you do, you get to put a counter on it, as well as creating a little blue tentacle creature token, which then takes advantage of all the other stuff you have on the battlefield.
Oh, the Krakens out
Yeah.
there. Krakens and tentacles. Then we have, I don't know how to say this, Oneirophage for 1, or sorry, it's a 3. Oh my gosh. It is a squid illusion that I'm having an illusion to actually say the cost of it. It's a 3 and a blue, and it's a 1/2 flyer. And whenever you draw a card, put a 1/1 counter on it. So it's gonna grow for you.
Mhm.
It's flying.
And then now this is, we promised, the last one.
Yes,
Thank you
it's
so
the
much
last one.
for sticking with us. But Toothy Imaginary Friend is a great little battle bond card. Of course, we talked about how the Impetus earlier has Purr, I think is his name, on it. But this one partners with Purr. Unfortunately, Purr is green, so you can't put him in this deck. But when you draw a card, you get to put a 1/1 counter onto the imaginary friend. And when it leaves the battlefield, you draw a card for each 1/1 counter on it. Of course, you have no maximum hand size because you've got your reliquary
Reliquary tower.
that.
It's a tower.
You know, there's words you just can't say. You know, like
Oh my gosh. There's a few of those today. Flip.
reliquary tower.
It's
Anyways,
crazy.
crazy. So yeah, that's it for this week. That's it for this commander deck. We have one more coming out later on this week, and we're very excited to share that with you. Thank you so much for watching and listening. If you're listening to us on podcasts, we're of course available on YouTube, on podcasts, wherever you like to download those, and you can feel free to connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, as well as Twitch. We'd love to hear from you and see what you think, or play with you,
Mm-hmm.
or lots of
Definitely.
all of those things. So yeah, that's it for this time. And until next time, tap those magic cards and have fun doing it. See you later, guys.
Bye, guys.